Yeah, so I gotta be the same depth back so we don't look like this.
Let me unbutton this. Let's get casual.
Alright.
Welcome everyone to the Pat and Paul Show. I am Paul Michelotti. I am joined as always by my co-host Pat McLaughlin.
Hello, Paul.
Pat, we've been conscripted into the creation of one of these episodes. I wasn't going to do a top end list again quite so quickly.
Right.
But it's been requested. It's been requested from above.
Yeah, not below.
Not from below.
Not from the fans.
That we create top reasons to move to upgrade to AEM 6.2. Does that interest you?
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah?
Not that interested.
That's fair. So given that, you can play the part of the guy who doesn't know anything about the new features in 6.2.
According to my resume, I'm quite qualified to do this.
I am going to let you...
Right. So I'm the host.
I'm going to let you host.
All right.
You got the cards. You're in the driver's seat.
All right.
You take this as fast, as slow as you want it.
Okay. So, Paul.
Those are in order. Don't...
Okay.
They're in no particular order, but I did order them.
No particular order?
Yeah.
All right, Paul.
Hold on, let me stretch out here.
Yeah, really run the mile. Or break the 4-minute mile on this one. Really go for it. What are your thoughts on content distribution?
Yeah, so content distribution was actually new in 6.1, but kind of was behind the scenes. And it's actually something that's sitting in Apache Sling.
Yes.
That... I don't know why Sling doesn't get more play as a general web development framework. I like its model. I like its pattern. I like the idea that the type of the resource dictates the functionality and not the path to the resource like most
I was going to
frameworks.
say, I mean, that's a huge departure from most web frameworks.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice pattern, and it flows really nicely with just how the web is structured in general.
Right. Being newer to this than you are, I came from the sweet Microsoft place where they just tell you how to do things. It's not the choices we have over here on the Java side of things.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Sweet freedom.
I don't know what to do with the freedom.
Yeah.
I was a captive for too long.
That's fair.
What are Sling's competitors? Like you mentioned resource versus path, but I guess to kind of dig down into why Sling isn't used more just a standalone as a web framework, who are its competitors?
You got
on the Java side?
Like Spring,
okay.
Spring MVC or something like that.
So they are on the same level.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
People use struts anymore?
Strut, yeah. People are still using struts. Okay. I think not as heavily.
Right.
Plenty of legacy apps still out on the various versions of struts. Yeah, but Spring is a big one, and then you'll find a lot of other smaller ones like Spark or things of that nature. But
it's interesting to me that I don't know, does it not get enough press because it's really associated with AEM and the Adobe world?
And I would think that would get it more press,
right.
But it's kind of been behind the scenes that this thing exists and you can use it. But the point is that content distribution is part of Apache Sling, and it's sort of got some of these like drilling holes above us here. It's gonna make great audio. It's better mechanisms to essentially, as the name would suggest, distribute content between instances of Sling.
Gotcha.
So in AEM, you've got replication. And so you activate content and it replicates out to your publish nodes. And there's, you can set up different replication agents, but there's not tons and tons of flexibility about, what that replication does and how it distributes to various nodes. And with content distribution, you get a lot of new features around that. Probably two of the nicest ones are priority queuing. So you can have some activations that take priority over others.
Okay.
So if you've got, just a backlog of activations that need to happen and something that needs to get out immediately, You can have that push to the front of the line, and everything else has to wait. There's also the notion of an error queue, essentially, where if some content that you're activating errors out, today, basically your queue is just stuck. So if you've activated 10,000 nodes, and one of those nodes errors during activation, now you've got 10,000 things sitting in your queue just waiting.
Right.
And you're going to have to go in and figure out what's going wrong before any of that other stuff activates. Now it can kind of be, the stuff that errored can kind of be cordoned off into a separate queue, and everything else can be, let go.
Nice.
So
very cool feature. Very good.
Number two,
the Touch UI, a source of controversy since its introduction.
Yeah, it's interesting that this even makes the list now, but given the controversy around its introduction, people hated it.
Yeah, both on the developer and the user sides. Both,
yeah,
or at least the feedback I have come across.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if it's like a Stockholm syndrome or something. I've kind of grown to like it. I like the affordances that it gives you. I like how they handle overriding the interface using the resource merger, which is again part of Sling.
Yeah.
Resource merger right in Sling. This is just going to be a podcast about why you should start just using Sling.
Really selling Sling.
AEM. Change the title and post.
Yeah. But that is a very, very cool feature.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a little show of it for our internal group here.
Dog and pony.
Yeah, and it was very, very impressive. That is a great way to... I think it could become a pattern that you could really structure your content in a way that is like both reusable and gives a better interface to the author.
Right.
Which is not something we're normally...
And a lot of the affordances in there were put in there specifically for allowing extension of the authoring interface and allowing extension of the administrative interface so that you can be doing things like creating your own administrative dashboards for various things. And they've gone, with 6.2, they've gone bananas with the dashboards and the type of information you get in the dashboards and the type of reports that you can just pull out in the dashboards. They've done a lot of work to better integrate into the rest of the marketing cloud, so audiences, targets, things of that nature, through a number of these dashboards. And if you're doing integration with your other systems, if we're dabbling with automating AWS infrastructure using some administrative dashboards inside of AEM, managing structured content that's stored in a database somewhere else, but from an administrative dashboard in AEM, but that's the kind of stuff that they've made actually really easy to do now.
Yeah, I would say the interface as a whole has changed in 6.2.
Yeah,
definitely. But it does lend itself to becoming a control hub.
Right.
You whether it's the Creative Cloud, whether it's any of the other Adobe products, or just like you said, outside sources, AWS, it does give a nice unified experience to an author that needs to control those things.
Right, and that's one of the core. If you look at the marketing collateral for AEM, that's one of the core use cases for AEM. It's not just building sites or managing assets. It's using it as your central hub for these disparate systems that all need to talk to each other.
Right, and I mean it gives you the ability to set up a single place to sign in to do that, which I think is to have that already in place and not have to worry about that.
Right.
It's definitely a reason to, if you're already have power users in AEM, there's no reason not to do it there, which is a pretty cool use.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pull you right out of there and take you to probably my favorite topic. That's AEM Mobile and its integrations with 6.2.
So,
you want to give us an overview of the landscape?
This one you could actually talk about.
Yeah, you know what? I could.
Yeah, let me...
Well, thank you.
Number 3, AEM Mobile.
AEM Mobile?
Yeah.
Paul.
So mobile now means a couple things inside of AEM.
So I'd say that to understand AEM Mobile is to understand the history. And I'm not going to take us back to the history of building.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
right.
tuck in a bit, buckle in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go as far back as when we built basically what a competitor to what became AEM apps.
Right.
I'm not going to go back that far. I'm not going to toot our own horns like that.
No.
So I'll start you
Humble.
Gotta be humble. So there previously, before this release of AEM apps, there were 2 flavors of mobile. 3 if you want to count responsive templates and things of that nature in AEM. But I knew you wouldn't. But when talking about apps, there were basically 2 different ways you could build apps using AEM. And that's what was referred to previously as AEM apps. AEM apps is a full-blown framework for building out templates, components, pages, and merging them into a single-page application that would run out on a device using Cordova or PhoneGap.
Right.
If you're familiar with those, which I know you are.
I am. Yes.
And then setting up over-the-air updates, which was a real power in it, so that they built the infrastructure that would allow you to publish something in AEM, and as long as it followed the proper pattern, could make it out onto the device. It's pretty powerful. That there is giving you full control over everything. But with that comes a lot of problems and issues and a lot of work. They were expensive projects to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a second flavor, and that's what they used to call DPS, which I believe is Digital Publishing Suite. And DPS was also a PhoneGap. Was it PhoneGap application or was it native?
No, it's native.
I believe it was native, yeah, because PhoneGap and DPS applications were kind of competing. But what that did was let you work out of basically InDesign, I think, but maybe a few other of the Creative Cloud products as well, and build out a very, very structured native application. Its main use would have been for sales brochures or magazines. I believe most of the examples I saw were magazines. So taking your print magazine and turning it into an app that was readable on a tablet.
Right.
But that was all done as part of this software called DPS. And it was done outside of AEM. And there wasn't a whole lot of integration. To build in an integration was to build all custom.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would give you, very structured, but as DPS matured a little bit, they did give some functionality for offline capabilities so that you didn't have to re-download your magazine and a lot of people start using it for sales brochures for a salesperson to have with them and to show.
The internal internal applications.
Right. But what Adobe did was they merged it into one product now called AEM Mobile.
It's monsters.
You call them what they will. Visionaries, monsters, I don't know. But even within the AEM Mobile umbrella, there's basically those 2 flavors still do exist.
Right.
But one of the largest changes they made is they took what was that DPS software and they built it into a cloud offering and with on-demand services that can be used to push content out of AEM plus other sources up into the cloud. And then from there, you can turn that into cross-platform applications that are native. And one of the cool features about that is they have some CSS transformation kind of happening there. So you can customize it more than you could when it was just DPS.
Right.
Living alongside that still is the AEM apps way of building something, and not a whole lot has changed there. That is not encompassed with on-demand services
Mm-hmm.
yet. So you're still going to be building that and publishing it from your normal AEM instances.
Right.
But it looks like the roadmap will be to have even more crossover between those. What that has to do with AEM 6.2 is, I think it just coincided with the release.
Well, AEM 6.2 adds all the administrative dashboards for managing your collections, managing your articles, managing your banners for the on-demand services.
Yeah, I apologize. That's correct. I was thinking that we already had AEM apps inside of AEM 6.1, but that's true. They are that more structured content that you need for an on-demand service-based app is the templates are available.
Right.
Anything you'd like to add, though? I'm going to become the host again.
You can take that back.
Good enough. It's good to be back in charge.
Keep this rolling.
Yeah. Number 4, another new feature that you gave us a bit of a demo on, which was well received here in the ICF Olsen offices, mainly because of your humorous delivery.
My shenanigans.
Your shanties.
Yeah.
And that's content fragments.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about content
We
fragments.
teased this on the last video. And by teased it, I mean, I think talked about it for 7 minutes.
Incessantly, yes.
But this is essentially the next generation of manuscripts, which were actually deprecated in 6.2. So they're still around. They'll probably be around for a little while, but you're supposed to be moving over to content fragments. And what this gives you is, similar to manuscripts, the ability to write your content separate from your presentation. So your content author that's going in and writing an article can write a content fragment with the article. They can have a teaser defined for that article, the main article body defined for that article. They can set up various renditions of that article, so there could be totally different content that renders for mobile versus desktop versus whatever else.
And that's configured at the content fragment level.
That's configured at the content fragment level. And then a presentation author, or what Adobe is calling a journey manager, is actually creating your experience and setting up your page with your template and your columns and your tabs and your whatever else,
right? And
then dragging these content fragment components into that experience and saying this component is going to show this content fragment or this part of the content fragment or this rendition of the content fragment. And in addition, being able to pull in what's known as associated assets. So in the content fragment, the author of the content fragment can associate a collection of assets with the fragment and be able to say...
But not place them. They
not place them anywhere.
This is what goes here. You decide where to put
Correct. So, there's a number of other concepts, but that's at a high level the pattern that they've established. And I think it's a big reason to update, and it's also a big reason to rethink how you're approaching your content authoring inside of AEM.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that right there is a solution to what we talked about in the last podcast, about how to separate your content from presentation.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to Adobe on that one.
Yeah. If you want to see the last podcast, link
right here.
Right here.
Right here.
Or maybe here. I'll put it somewhere.
Yeah. I'd put it on the screen for me.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. All right.
Last one.
Last one.
I don't know how that drum roll is going to play on the mic.
Yeah, it's probably going to sound like an earthquake. It's a big one.
Yeah.
This one right here has been a problem when using AEM, or at least in my opinion, a problem.
Perennial.
Yeah.
Issue. Yes.
And that is number 5, documentation. Documentation.
Yeah. This is users, developers, the creators alike have found great pleasure poking holes and poking fun at the structure and or dearth of documentation that's historically been available for previously CQ, now AEM.
Wasn't great.
Wasn't great, was often very difficult to, even if the document did exist, it was often very difficult to find the piece of documentation that you were looking for. The documents weren't linked nicely and associated nicely.
Oh, they were terrible.
And I went and I actually saw this the first time when I was looking up how to create a custom content fragment template. And it took me to a page of documentation that had a nice hierarchical navigation of all of the documentation about all of the sections of AEM, to a page that actually explained the intended node structure of a custom template and further went into great detail about the meaning of every single node and type and property that was expected in a custom content fragment template. And I nearly cried.
Yeah, no. You're making it.
I
Are
nearly
you hallucinating? There's no way
I
this
nearly
exists. So is this beyond content fragments? And this is
beyond. This is the whole
awesome.
suite of stuff that's in AEM. It's all, you know, they've moved over to their standard styling in the Coral UI, so it all looks very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
The navigation is laid out very nicely so that you can easily navigate to, well, I'm a developer and I want information about developing in the context of AEM assets, and here's all of the resources for developers for
Nice.
AEM assets. And so a lot of, you know, if you're not on 6.2, probably a lot of value still in that documentation, because a lot of it is, you know, just the legacy documentation moved over. But it's, in my mind, it's a reason to move to 6.2, because it's going to make your development flow and your authoring flow, because the authoring documentation is all there as well. And the management documentation is there as well, the instance management. You know, it's going to make all of your flows. Your flows are going to be flowing so free.
Awesome.
So
Well,
there it is. I don't know if that's a top 5. It's the 5. Well, it's certainly the 5 that I wrote down on note cards. It's the 5 that I would say that I care about the most. You know, a lot of other updates across all aspects of AM. A lot of updates in assets. A lot of updates in forms.
mm-hmm.
A lot of updates in social and communities. Communities.
Yeah.
Should I do anything to close? Crush this Mountain Dew.
Yeah. It's a chug of that Mountain Dew. That looks like.
Should we kick this off?
Oh wait, are we not recording?